How many races should a Formula 1 Grand Prix calendar have? If you ask Formula 1, currently the limit is 24, and that is how many we have in 2025. I say personally we should probably have 20 at the absolute most, and the FIA president Mohammed Ben Sulayem also goes along with that as well. One of the few things that we actually agree on, me and MBS. If you ask some older drivers from generations gone past, they might say 18 or 16 like back in their day. But former AlphaTauri, Toro, Rosso team principal Franz Tost, you may remember him from a few years ago. I think he retired at the end of 2023 from his role after serving that team for nearly 20 years, really, at that point. He's actually come out and said that Formula 1 should have more races, not less, more than 24. Let's have a look at what usually level-headed Austrian has to say about this. Let's have a look at what's been said here on the F1Chronicle.com, guys. Full article on here as always. This is sure to get interesting. Former F1 team boss Franz Tost has lashed out at the growing consensus in the sport that the calendar has become far too inflated with its 24 Grand Prix. While the drivers travel in 5-star style, many believe the schedule has become unacceptably arduous for the bulk of F1's personnel, such as the mechanics. Tost, who stepped down as AlphaTauri boss at the end of 2023, stridently disagrees. People always say that the mechanics are overworked, he told Sport Mark Median. That's a total joke. They are not overworked at all. I think 24 races is totally okay, said the 69-year-old. Not nice. Tost said that when he entered Formula 1 in the 1990s supporting Ralf Schumacher, the schedule was actually more arduous than what it is today. We had the race at the weekend and then we tested on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, he recalled. At the beginning, we even had 2 test cars, and it was always the same mechanics and engineers. I never heard a complaint from them back then. Now there is a curfew in Formula 1, which means that it's over at 9 in the evening until 8 AM the next day. Jesus, what more do they want? They get to work in Formula 1. That's a privilege. This whole work-life balance, all this utter woke nonsense. Oh, he seems like a fellow, Tost. It's totally pointless. You don't need anything like that. You don't need anything. You don't need balance in life, guys. It's overrated, right? You don't need that, all right? You're privileged. That's what you are. It's something for people who are too little. Oh, man. Oh, man. Right. Let's keep going. Let's refrain from criticism. We'll do that at the end. Some suggest that Formula 1 should actually return to the days of intense on-track testing, complemented by a calendar featuring fewer races. If you say you have to test, that's an old way of thinking, Tost. What? Coming from you? You don't have to test at all. Testing is the most pointless thing ever. It's just a tool for the engineers so they can play around. It's all pointless. The money is earned at the races. The more races you do, the more money in Formula 1. Tost thinks that F1 could even expand the calendar beyond its unprecedented 24 Grand Prix per season. The year has 52 weeks, he said. Every other week would make sense. There could be 26 races. And I'm not saying that now because I'm retired. That's what I was going to say. All of these takes are so rich coming from a man who has his feet on the table, just chilling out and just stirring stuff from behind the scenes. This is so rich coming from him. I've always said that before too. I always had a heated discussion with my former colleagues and they said that's far too much. 18 to 20 races is the maximum. I always asked them, what are you? A racing team or a holiday team? What are you? Some kind of holiday team? Oh man. Franz Tost. Oh, coming out with yeah, my head is in my hands for you guys that are listening to this. I know some of you guys probably tab out and just listen to my videos as I read the articles out and stuff, but my goodness me, man. Like, Tost, with the greatest respect, what the hell are you talking about, man? Oh, there's some absolute gems in there. Forget work-life balance. That's for people who are lazy. Oh, my God. Right. Not everybody has the same work ethic as him, right? You know, and this is the thing, right? I'm not saying that he is coming from a privileged position, but certainly when he was a team principal, he is, because I imagine as part of the Red Bull organization, the drivers and the top team personnel, right, the executives of Toro Rosso or AlphaTauri, depending on what year you're talking about here, I imagine they all had relative 5-star luxury whenever they traveled, right? So it's doable for them. Traveling is still tiring. Anybody who's done a lot of traveling will know it's still tiring. You can be in the nicest hotel in the world, but if you're exhausted, you're exhausted. Simple as that. There's no getting away from that. Now, yes, Formula 1 has changed a lot. And this is a point I actually had with my good friend, actually a discussion I had with my good friend Alex Booth, who, we've followed Formula 1 for a long time. I used to call him the F1 expert, only half joking really, because the guy is an absolute genius when it comes to F1 history and the lore of how we ended up where we are and everything. The guy's incredible. So if you listen to this, Alex, thanks for your support. Although he does work as a postman, so probably doesn't watch my videos during his little breaks. But hey, who knows? Maybe he's a fan of the channel. You never know. But back then there was more testing. There was a lot of testing. But the big difference between testing and the race weekends is that these race weekends are scattered across the globe. There are massive distances they have to travel. Some of the triple headers we had last season, for example, doing Las Vegas in the States, going over to Qatar, then to Abu Dhabi, Texas, Mexico City, Sao Paulo. I think there was one involving Azerbaijan as well, Azerbaijan and Singapore. Were they back-to-back weekends? I know they have been in the past at times. So, that's a lot of traveling. Whereas when you're testing, you'll be testing most likely somewhere in Europe. And back then, when Franz Tost is talking about this, the calendar was a lot more Eurocentric. 1990s, early 2000s, at least half the calendar then, if not more, was based in Europe. So the travel times were less. So if you're Ferrari, for example, you've got Fiorano test track literally next door to the factory pretty much. So even though Michael Schumacher and Luca Badoer and Rubens Barrichello, Felipe Massa, all those guys clocked up thousands upon thousands of testing miles, right? There wasn't much travel time there. It was effectively just doing a day's work for them. And before anybody says it, it's a very intense day of work for sure, because of all the, the physical strain of driving a Formula 1 car for 5-6 hours, however long they did, right? So it was tough and it was different. But nowadays, because of all the race weekends, not only do you have to do all the sessions, the practice, the qualifying, the sprint races when there's a sprint race, and the regular race too, there's the media duties, there's a debriefing, everything like that. There's a lot of work that goes on during Grand Prix weekends. And doing that 24 times a season while being away from your family for so long, it's tough. It's tough. And that's for the drivers, right? The mechanics, I think, have it a lot worse off. And I've spoke about this before. I've heard some absolute horror stories when it comes to the lack of time that these guys and girls actually spend with their families back home. It's so difficult. They look forward to the British Grand Prix, a lot of these people, because a lot of them work for British-based teams, even if they're not British themselves. And that's the only time when they can actually go home for a little bit, They have the summer break, they have the winter break, of course they do. But once the season gets underway, you're gone. You're gone for like most of the next 8-9 months, and yeah, it's a dream to work in Formula 1. It used to be my dream to work in Formula 1 as well. But as soon as I don't think I've said this before, but as soon as I got to the British Grand Prix as press for the first time, I know I've mentioned that, but what I haven't mentioned is that I realised very quickly from speaking to the journalists who go to all the different races and everything, I respect what they do for sure, and I respected what they do even more after seeing it up close and in person, because the travelling that they do, yeah, it's a dream to work in Formula 1, but it's tough. If you've got a family especially, it's very tough. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of commitment, and you've got to really, really love it to do that. And a lot of these mechanics, there's a reason why they're going to World Endurance Championship. They have 8 races a season there. The work-life balance is a lot better. Yeah, they'll still work for 48 years of 48 years, maybe 48 years in their career, 48 weeks in the year, give or take roughly, with bank holidays and holidays and stuff like that, annual leave and all that. They'll still do that, but they'll do that from relatively comfort. They'll do it from the factory, they'll do it in the local area rather than halfway around the globe. So respectfully, Franz Tost, you are talking a lot of I'm not going to say the word, but I'm not going to swear. You're talking a lot of rubbish. I cannot get on board with what you're saying at all. This just comes across, unfortunately, as a bitter old man who has no skin in the game anymore and has retired. And that's just a fact, all right? Listen, I don't want to disrespect the guy anymore, but I'm sorry, but saying things like work-life balance is for people who are lazy is just the biggest load of rubbish ever. Just because of you being a workaholic, which I'm assuming you are, doesn't mean that everybody else has to be. Everybody's different, and you should respect that. And there should be less races in the Formula 1 calendar. That's just my opinion. But what's yours? Let us know in the comments below. I want to hear what you have to say as well. See you soon for some more content on the world of Formula 1 just like this, guys. Like, share, comment, subscribe for much more F1 news and opinion pieces. And head over to Patreon as well if you want to go support us and become a Patreon member as well. So yeah, see you soon, guys. Have a great day. Have a great week. And make sure you work hard, or Franz Tost will call you lazy.